there, we're here with Gabriel from founder of Morph Token. And your position with the company is just founder? Or?
Yeah, we've got two co-founders. We're still a really tiny team, so not too big on titles. But so myself and JP are the two co-founders of Morph Token.
Right on. So if people want to follow you and directly on Twitter, what's your handle?
Yeah, I'm Gabe Coin on Twitter, and we're Morph Token and Morph Trade on Twitter as well.
Right on. So what you guys are doing is spectacular. You guys have various competitors now in the market, and from just surveying that space, I can attest that you guys offer the best rates amongst your competitors. At least, I mean, whenever I've looked, you know what I'm saying? How were you able to manage that? How are you able to manage that?
We honestly just work hard. We've thought of ourselves as pretty late coming to the instant swap crypto space. We just wanted to make sure we were able to offer good rates. We keep our team, sturdy but slim. And we're just out there to make sure that people can swap coins at pretty effective rates. And so far, everything's worked out. People really appreciate the service. Things work smoothly, simply. I think pretty cost effectively, relatively, for kind of the simplicity that we're offering. And, people enjoy the platform. It's worked out pretty well. So as long as if people are enjoying it, that means we're rocking and rolling, and we're able to keep offering and even do better than we're already doing. So we've gotten the opportunity to cut rates at different points for different coins. Monero in particular, like when bulletproofs were implemented, and the miner fees dropped. I forget if it was by 100x or 1000x, or it was orders of magnitude. So especially for even like smaller traders, where maybe you were doing like $100 or $200 worth of coins of trading, paying a large miner fee on the outbound coin, for $100, and to lose $1 on that miner fee was significant. And then to drop, say $1 of fees to sub 1 penny was super cool. We're just, thanks to our users and people coming back to the platform and using it, that's how we're able to keep doing it, I guess.
That's awesome. So this is kind of serendipity, because for the Crypto Vigilante, we have a tutorial that includes a tutorial on Morph Token.
Which I had
which you didn't know about.
I literally had no idea, and I've known about Dollar Vigilante for years. Jeff, how's it going? We've met a handful of times. Admittedly, not sure if he remembers me or not. Maybe just the pretty face, not the name. But Dollar Vigilante's been doing some great stuff for a long time. Obviously been on the Bitcoin warpath for a long time, on the HODL train. And great. That's awesome to have you guys as an ally for Morph Token. That's pretty cool.
Well, you keep offering a good service. We're just going to keep following you.
All right.
Yeah, that's all it is. So your background, before we started the interview, you were telling us a little bit about your background and your experience with what you do. So please, if you can allude to that and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, my journey to follow along, I guess, kind of with the Dollar Vigilante and what you guys are all about. I kind of bumped into Ron Paul and Austrian economics like 2007, 2008. I even went to the Ludwig von Mises Institute down in Auburn, Alabama, just to really hang out and really get submersed, because I just stumbled into what a disaster central banking was, and was just like, what is going on? I don't even trust this money in my pocket anymore. Went really deep down that rabbit hole. Worked in politics for a little bit, and eventually stumbled into Bitcoin as Bitcoin was starting to rock and roll. And I even got lucky enough to bump into BitInstant and Charlie Shrem and Eric Voorhees back in late 2012, when they were kind of just moving in to the city and were starting BitInstant and getting going there. I was one of the first employees at Coinapult, which was a partner with BitInstant, and it was a wallet and broker service. So I don't know if people remember using BitInstant, and coins would get emailed to your email address.
MoneyGram.
That was the whole, and it was you'd receive an email with a link, and so that was Coinapult's wallet service, basically emailing you Bitcoin that you could redeem. So that was my start in crypto, was bumping into Austrian economics, understanding that a money that is finite is better than a money that's infinite.
Right.
Which, doesn't seem too hard to click, but
so yeah, wouldn't you say that that's like the biggest threat against central banking? Would you say that? I would say that's big. That's a bigger threat than anonymity. The scarcity,
the scarcity.
Yeah.
Listen, the combination. When I think of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I think of two really main pillars. You've got the payment network, which is uncensorable, and you've got the currency unit itself, which is also uncensorable in that it's inflationary proof and stuff like that. Both of those pieces are huge, and the fact that you can combine the two is, orders of magnitude on top of each other. So now you can not only have this digital gold, but you can transport hundreds of millions of dollars of it on the uncensorable network. So hand in hand, I think it's the combination of both. I don't know if I'd really say one or the other more than.
No, of course, yes. Well, statists are going to state, regulators are going to want to regulate.
For sure. And listen, it would beyond even that, just like other individuals interfering in other individuals' stuff, for any reason that you want your personal sovereignty and security, whether it's governments or other intruders. So yeah, absolutely.
And, the crazy thing is that the creativity of entrepreneurship cannot be it's not something that we have like a compass for. We do not know what spontaneous order holds for the future. You know what I mean? Like just a random individual can just come up with like the most amazing implementation of this technology that can just change the game even further. You know what I mean?
This is very much a grand experiment, and I've come to really appreciate that. The longer and longer this experiment plays out, we've obviously made incredible strides in some areas. We're obviously still not a global reserve currency yet, so there's still plenty. We're not the normal payment standard for your coffee shop right now, but these are things that we're experimenting and moving closer towards all the time. It's super exciting. We've come this far in a decade. Holy smokes, who knows where we're going to be in another 10 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. So right now, the AMDL5 is being proposed in Europe, and we have the FATF. Yeah. That is an agreement amongst 38 countries to become like a panopticon for exchanges. What's going on?
This proposal is now looking at, how to properly regulate crypto exchanges, what those policies are going to be. In terms of their reach or overreach and their proposal that any time a transfer occurs between one service and another service, having to ID everybody and anything involved in those transactions, I think at the end of the day, it's just going to prove to be either so impractical that it just doesn't really happen that way, or if it does, it's just going to be globally detrimental to crypto company. I mean, at the end of the day, crypto will continue, which is what's so cool about this experiment. Even if globally governments worldwide basically say like crypto activity is illegal. At the end of the day, this stuff is uncensorable, so somebody's going to keep using it. It might block out a whole lot of activity, and it might be really painful for the space. But guess what? The network's still going to process blocks, and people are still going to send coins. It's just going to be a different environment. So I've kind of just come to the point where we have to just kind of accept and see what comes down the pipeline. Crypto's going to respond as it responds. And we will see what happens. I would like to think that it's going to become obvious to governments that the current proposals that are on the table and being discussed for this kind of global exchange regulatory environment it's just insanity to assume that you're actually going to be able to follow through on that type of regulatory environment, and it's absurd. It's governments thinking that they can do everything and anything, and maybe they'll acknowledge that they can't, and if they actually try to go ahead and do it, it'll obviously be crazy town. But I guess we'll see, right? So it's interesting because as much as exchanges, see within the Dollar Vigilante, within our research group, we constantly have this back and forth as to what degree are exchanges between exchanges that allow liquidity between fiat and crypto important.
to what extent do we have to what extent are they not important, right? Right? Because we eventually want to move away from fiat completely. And we all want sound money.
We totally want it, but just on a relative basis, we're clearly so far away from that, right? Where 0.1% of the world's money is in crypto, and 99 the rest of it is still in fiat, assets. And I mean, obviously, real estate and stuff like that. Just talking about paper money and fiat currency is, dwarfs anything that's in crypto, even still with all the gains that we've made. So how important are fiat exchanges? I mean, today they are still very important in terms of, listen, if you want to move 99% of the world's money in fiat to the 1% in crypto, we need those bridges. But let's just play the game of pretend where, okay, these new, crazy Orwellian rules come into place, and most exchanges or services are effectively put out of business. Wow, okay, so maybe crypto prices, get nuked. We have another one of these like 80, 90% pullbacks and stuff like that. It looks like everything's dead. But at the end of the day, there are still ways for the market to exchange dollars for crypto. People are going to figure out ways to do this, whether it's physical cash, whether it's OTC markets exploding. I mean, you're kidding yourself, right? I mean, and all we have to do is look at any other item that's been supposedly illegal by governments for decades. You look at the war on drugs, and it's like you can clearly still find drugs everywhere.
Right.
So, declaring the war on Bitcoin and crypto, I don't think you're going to have a world without crypto.
It's declaring a war on self-preservation, and that goes against human nature. I mean, every human being, I think, is inclined to seek what's best for them. So we're back. We had a little technical difficulty. We're back with Gabriel from Morph Token, and we were talking about regulators and what's happening in the space. And so during the break that we had, we're talking about we do live in a world that is not ideal, and we have to wrestle with these things. And so we're from your experience working in the space and now with Morph Token, what do you foresee in the future for Bitcoin regulation for exchanges? What do we expect? So our analysis thus far has been one in which we see a future that's starting to make way, where the community is going to be, in a sense, people are going to have to choose whether they want liquidity or they want privacy, and so we're going to have two types of users, and that's becoming very apparent. So,
and I actually think it's a lot more than just two types of users.
Oh, really?
Because I look at it and I see hundreds of different types of users. I think the scale. Crypto lives in not even just one or two different worlds. It lives in all sorts of, you got black, you got white, and you got all sorts of different shades in between. Where it's one day I could be sitting down with somebody from a hedge fund who's talking about investing a tiny percentage of their portfolio into this digital gold asset, and then the next day you can be on Reddit and there's obviously people discussing cool places to go on darknet markets. And that range, there's a lot of stuff in between there too, where I was living in Panama for a while with Eric and a bunch of other people that were working at Coinapult at the time. And in Panama you'd see a lot of people coming over from Venezuela, and you'd see a lot of people trying to remit money to Colombia, to remit money to Europe, to get money in from the US or to send money to the US. And all sorts of problems doing that through traditional methods, where it became super easy to do it with Bitcoin or crypto. And so it was not uncommon to meet somebody who was in Panama from Venezuela and needed to send money back to family. And where do you call that user on that scale of black and white to gray?
Right.
And there are a lot of flavors of that. Where do you call the 10-year-old kid living in Europe who wants to buy something for his video games and can't do it with a typical credit card, but he can do it with Bitcoin?
Yeah, thank you for bringing it back down to the individual. Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is really hard to break down into a type of user and say there are a lot of different shades and flavors. That's what's gotten to be so. I came to Bitcoin and crypto as a libertarian and stuff like that, and kind of free markets and stuff. But what's been so cool and astounding is to watch so many different people come to this from so many different angles and for so many different purposes and values and end goals, which, is just part of living in the real world, right? Where just, I worked on the Ron Paul campaign and realized we weren't really converting the entire Republican Party into like Ron Paul people in the same way. We're like, I don't think we have to convert everybody into like a hardcore crypto person or hardcore Bitcoin person, but people will naturally have reasons for why they want to use this stuff. And that scales in a wide range. I forget how we even I guess we were describing like the highly like one world of very regulated and one world of very not.
Yes, one world where it's very regulated, but it offers you a lot of liquidity in and out of fiat. And then another world where someone might choose more privacy, right?
I think that's definitely a very good breakdown of different scales of what we're seeing in crypto space, right? So like signing up for Coinbase is a lot different than, I don't know, if you're in Nigeria trading on local Bitcoin for cash or something, right? Those are two very different types of players in the space. And I think we see a wide range of different stuff in between. And people are going to be forced to make these choices of liquidity versus privacy. They're going to be forced to make choices between what jurisdictions they are, making whether it's setting up a company or they themselves personally, all those types. And so you've got 190 something countries that are each going to make their own decisions regarding legislation and stuff like that for crypto. So there's a wide variety of a lot of different forces at play, and it's going to be very interesting to see how everybody responds to this stuff. So,
okay, from your experience, where do you think this is going? We have the AMDL5, we have the FATF, whatever. We have all these, this panopticon. At least there's a temptation for it to happen, right? And people proposing this. Where do you see the future of crypto exchanges?
Everybody, we're going to keep pushing as much as we possibly can to give custody back to users rather than third parties. So we see a lot of efforts in a lot of places for that type of stuff. Regulators are going to continue to push to further regulate the space, especially as there's more growth in the space. So imagine that the whole space grows by another order of magnitude. I can imagine the regulatory front also growing by an order of magnitude. So there's definitely that to keep in mind on a relative basis. And at the same time, there are going to be governments that, so if there's one government that is arguably over-regulating, I think another government is going to take the opportunity to look at that and say, what, if we step in and we set up friendlier rules, we're going to have the opportunity to bring these types of companies, what country wouldn't want the revenues of somebody like a Binance operating in their jurisdiction and paying taxes there?
Right.
So that competition has been going on, will continue to be going on. So just more, I don't know, almost more of the same. Just as the space keeps growing, we'll see kind of the stakes keep getting higher.
And the crazy thing is, even the question is stifling and brings down the energy, right? But let's talk about entrepreneurship, though. Because entrepreneurship is a solution to all this spontaneous
it's
order.
This constant back and forth, actually, right? Yeah, between entrepreneurial stuff and regulator stuff, and we're just in this kind of give and take back and forth. So.
What is your recommendation for entrepreneurs looking into the space right now that they see? Okay, so we have exchanges, but we have a global economy waking up right now to the reality of what crypto is. What is your what would you say to an entrepreneur right now?
I think the biggest, or from what I've seen in startup world and being in crypto world, if you look at entrepreneurship and the ability to create as a antidote to statism and overregulation and stuff like that, the ability for software developers to write code and technology to route around obstacles is mind-boggling, and it's taken me a long time as a non-techie to super duper appreciate it. And I've seen it come to life through crypto and Bitcoin, and it's just super empowering, right? Where it's like, Just with the cell phone, you as an individual can choose to do whatever it is you're going to do with your private keys. And if you're a software developer and you can really control that stuff, that's where real power is. And honestly, I would recommend people learn how to code if you're really interested in building stuff in this space. I've been trying to take that advice myself, and have started spending the time learning coding 101. And it's not even like I'm expecting to build anything too exciting too quickly, but just having more of an understanding and really appreciating this technology and what we can do with it. I think as an entrepreneur and somebody trying to build with this stuff, it is just a hugely, hugely powerful thing. And that's literally that's the backbone to what we've been able to do is if we can write code and we can create, then we can do what we want to create. I mean, and it's almost as simple as it, right? Just write a few lines of code if that's a thing you want to do. And you want to send value privately and securely on a network globally, write the code to do it, and then you can do it. And that's crazy. That's incredibly powerful, and it scales. You and I can do it, and then billions of people can do it. And it's tough to understand that. And once you really, really get into the nitty-gritty code, I think there's just a higher level of appreciation, and for building stuff, it's super valuable. And it's just really hard to hire engineers too if you're building a business, and that's what this space is all about.
So we, after Shapeshift went, into KYC AML mode, we saw a lot of competitors come into the scene offering the market a non-KYC option, as MorphToken does, to a lot of the world. Do you see this? Do you see this space growing? Offering the same service that you guys do?
It's an interesting question. I guess it just depends on what happens globally. From certainly regulatory perspective stuff. What happens with the crypto market from here? So that's an interesting question. I would say broadly yes, just because I see crypto overall still having a large way to grow. And I think at the end of the day, it's just going to come down. Every country and every jurisdiction is going to have to ask itself the question: do individuals have the right to transact privately? Yes or no? And so some jurisdictions will say yes, and some jurisdictions will say no. Some will have all sorts of caveats in between. And then entrepreneurs are going to run around to these different jurisdictions, setting up shop for where they want to optimize their business. And obviously that's a lot of different jurisdictions with a lot of different opinions. And so we've already got hundreds of countries and hundreds of companies that are all in this mess right now, I suppose.
So we're at a Monero conference right now, and so what do you foresee being the future of privacy coins within exchanges?
I think privacy and censorship resistance are huge components of the value being built in the cryptocurrency space.
Right.
So it's tough to see that disappearing. And then a lot of it's going to be, obviously the engineers that are working in the space are doing incredible stuff. And I continue to see more incredible stuff coming from them. And then, then it's, how do regulators react to this technology? And that's definitely still a giant question mark. It used to be a few years ago, the question wasn't even being addressed. At least now it's at least being, actually in this whole Facebook Libra project, this is now the ultimate of, at least we're now asking the questions of how governments are really going to address this stuff. So the fact that those questions are now being asked, I guess the next logical step is we'll have some more concrete answers. So maybe over the next 6-12 months, I think the shapes of those answers will actually start coming out a little bit more.
Okay, well, thank you for being with us and thank you for talking to us. Is there anything else you want to give our subscribers and our whoever's watching this? Any words of advice for entrepreneurs? Any parting words here?
Listen, be willing to take risk. This is an exciting time. There's a lot of cool new stuff going on. Most people are just not willing to take risk, and so if you I encourage people to try entrepreneurship and to take it on. I actually think that's one of the biggest pieces of entrepreneurship is willing to be able to take it on.
Yeah, just do it.
And by the way, if you fail the first time, do it again. And if you fail the next time, do it again. And sooner or later, you might succeed. And but most people just aren't actually willing to take that first step. So yeah, that would actually be my honest advice: is try taking that first step and just experiment and learn. And actually, in a very similar way that Bitcoin's just kind of experimented its way to success, I think being an entrepreneur is not very dissimilar. You just experiment your way to success, which is a lot of failures in between, but sooner or later, a failure might be a success.
So what would you say to the entrepreneur that is listening to this and is probably asking himself, man, I don't want to go up against these regulators, and you know what I mean? I'm just a startup. What would you have to say to that? Someone like that?
Yeah, I actually, one of the things I was always surprised by as I was getting going was like, I guess I felt like I had to think big, and then finally I thought about just thinking small and just getting started and off the ground. So, if you're looking at a giant battle where you're like, whoa, this is really intimidating, maybe just pick a smaller battle. And so just strategize and optimize around that where, your risk profile is lower. You're involved in a different way. Just analyze those risks. If a challenge looks too big, just take a smaller bite.
Yeah, words of wisdom. Thank you so much for your time. This is
super
awesome.
pleasure.
This is great.
I'm so glad, and I've been a huge fan of Dollar Vigilante for a long time, so it's exciting for me to have done the interview.
The good thing is that Jeff Ed Bugos, the team created a great community around themselves, and we've been watching the growth of the space closely, and we've seen the evolution of your sector. Particularly is very interesting. It's very interesting to us, from like BitInstant to Coinapult to Shapeshift, now Morph Token, and all of the competitors to Morph Token. Right? Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
No, super pleasure. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Good stuff.